What is a once in a lifetime frick up that you somehow did a second time? Broke $6,000 high pressure mercury penetrometer. 2 of them. Within half an hour. The lab had to shut the porosimetry section because they didn't have enough penetrometers to keep processing samples. So I was asked by a family that lived down the road to look after their assorted chickens ducks while they were away for a few days. All I had to do was feed the chickens, change their water and turn a tap on for a few minutes to top up the tiny duck pool. Fine. No probs. Easy, except I didn't turn the tap off. I realized about 6 hours later, got over there as quickly as I could and was witness to a scene of complete chaos. The garden was totally flooded, which the ducks were loving. The chickens were gathered on a tiny slowly shrinking island and everything was generally in a right state. Mercifully the water drained over the next few days and I managed to tidy up enough to completely get away with it. The family was so pleased in fact that they asked me to look after their birds again about 6 months later. And yes, the next time I left the tap on and did exactly the same thing again. I have a fish pond. We leave the tap on all the time. The new rule is you wear a sombrero until the tap is off. My friend's dad was dying of terminal cancer and decided to marry his girlfriend before he died. When talking to said friend, to her extreme distress, I accidentally called the wedding a funeral. Realizing my mistake, I tried to correct myself by saying, "Oh god, I'm sorry, I meant funeral. I called it a funeral twice." Not good. Look, the point is your dad's dying. Really dying. Let's be clear. My dad worked at a gas station in his teens. He cleaned a glass door so well that when he was done, he turned to pick up his bucket, turned back to the door and stepped right through the glass. They docked his wages to pay for it. After the new glass was installed, my dad decided to clean the installer's fingerprints off the glass. When he was done, he turned to pick up his bucket. Reaching for a friend's shoulder, she happened to twist at the same time and I got a handful of boob. Shocked, I reached with the other hand to apologize, and reacting to the boob grab, she twisted again. I got another handful of boob. If she trips and somehow lands with her butt on your face, then you're meant for each other. My grandfather had a good story about this. He was working on assembly line at General Motors. A guy working a machine nearby damaged his finger real bad, spent several hours getting it patched up, was back on the job later that day or maybe the next day. My grandfather asked him what had happened, so the guy showed him and, you guessed it, he screwed up his finger all over again. I've heard the story so many times from so many people, I'm not sure whether it's a cross-industry urban legend, or whether it just happens a lot. In the store I work at, all the cashiers have numbers to sign into the registers on. This way they can track transactions and other things. One day, I was signing in and I guess I typed my number too fast because at the bottom of the screen it said Belinda, which is my manager's name. I don't even know her number. I told the owner and when he tried to fix it, it didn't work. He ended up having to call the software company and reboot the entire system because even when Belinda did try to sign out using her number, it didn't work. The store was closed for a few hours because of this. They said it was no problem, probably a rare glitch. A few weeks later, it happened again. Now I have a barcode I scan to sign in so I don't freak up a third time. At least you exposed a glitch on their system. Oh boy, once a new kid came to my gifted class for the first trip, and we were in the gym for recess. So my friend and I had been playing with the ball, and she accidentally kicked it into his face. She apologized and we moved on. I grabbed the ball a few moments later and told her, "Don't kick it like that. Kick it like this," before immediately punching it straight into his face again. The shame was unreal. Scott Sterling. Chipped a front tooth biting my nails. 3 times. Same tooth. Same nail. After the last time I said frick it and got a silver tooth. Walking in my grandparents' barn in the hayloft. Didn't know a hayloft would have an opening in the floor to toss hay bales into the horse stalls below. Also didn't know my grandfather had put a thin sheet of plexiglass over the opening because he didn't feed them in the stalls and didn't want the hay falling down into the stalls by accident. The plexiglass had gotten pretty much covered completely by hay. So as my cousins and I were walking through the loft, I stepped into the plexiglass and disappeared into the horse stall below. I was maybe 6 years old and it was a good 15 feet drop. so not a minor thing. I wasn't injured, but it was a very scary event. Parents were retrieved. I was crying. It became a moderately big deal. Luckily the stall was empty at the time. About 2 years later I'd basically forgotten about the whole thing. But my cousins had not. Again we were playing around in the hayloft. One of my cousins dared me to walk across a stretch of the floor that was covered with hay. The plexiglass had been replaced. Being one of the youngest of the cousins, of course I was not going to chicken out on such a simple dare. So I did, and again disappeared into the horse stall. This time falling in right behind the very big, very skittish Arabian horse my grandparents owned. To this day no one can understand why that horse didn't kick out. He would freak out at everything. But he just looked back at me very confused as to why this small screaming human had suddenly appeared in his stall. I was not allowed in the barn anymore after that. Fell down a flight of stairs twice, intentionally. First time was when I was 4, reading a book on how a turtle cracked its shell to become wise. So I decided to crack my own shell by throwing myself down the stairs. If this sounds familiar, I've shared this story before. Second time was when I was demonstrating to a friend about the scenario above. I only really meant to jump down 2 stairs as an example, but I just kept on going. Thank frick the stairs on attempt number 2 were carpeted. Yeah, it went like this. Violently crashes down entire flight of stairs. How I wish to see this. Cut up a Naga lemon hybrid chili. Delicious by the way, but extremely hot. Used my bare hands to pick up the chili flakes and deposited them in my mince mix. Front door bell goes. Drop everything and open the door. It's my mate who's come round and bought his girlfriend. I shake both their hands. Didn't even realize. Later that night, after we'd eaten and they had gone to bed, I hear an ear-piercing scream from the bedroom. At first I thought, maybe they are into kinky stuff. Nope. She comes running downstairs nearly naked and straight into the bathroom, shower on, crying, sobbing, desperate pleas to God for mercy, etc. Shortly afterward, boyfriend comes flying downstairs nearly naked and nearly knocks the door down trying to get in the bathroom. After a good half hour of pain and misery, they both emerge. She has panda eyes from all of the tears. His face and eyes are incredibly red, but he's holding his boxers tight. I put 2 and 2 together. Basically they had gotten a little frisky upstairs, with Naga chili all over their hands, which had obviously wandered to intimate places. I was not a popular man that evening. Later that month, I took another Naga lemon from the freezer, defrosted it and chopped it up. Used my bare hands to dump it in the stew. Both cats come in the cat flap and decide to make a fuss about being fed, so being the kind owner I am, I dole out some cold cuts from the fridge, with my bare hands. Both cats, after wolfing down the cold cuts, start projectile vomiting everywhere and drinking the water dry, licking themselves and generally meowing and panting. I have never laughed so hard and felt so bad. Tagging you as Pee Destroyer. When I was much younger I used to bite down a bit on a glass when I was drinking it, and one day I bit through it and cut my mouth. A few weeks later I was out with my parents for dinner and they were telling some friends about what I did, and I said it was like this and bit down on the glass, breaking it and cutting my mouth again. 7th grade. Was shooting spitballs in class. Teacher turns around for a second. War begins. I shot first this round and got my friend 30 feet across the room in the mouth as he was inhaling to power his spitball. He immediately fishhooks himself with his pinky finger in his cheek and starts gagging, then choking. Teacher freaks and tries to do the Himalich thing. Ambulance arrives. Parents were called. Investigation took place. Everybody lived. 15 or so years later I'm in the army. In 8. We are shining our boots with polish, cotton balls, and water. People start throwing these wet, nasty, boot polish soaked cotton balls at each other, just fricking around. I throw one and, as you might have guessed, right in my friend's mouth about 30 feet away. Same pinky fishhook in the cheek. Same cat with a hairball hawking gagging noise, followed by choking, Heimlich, and an investigation. TLDR. I'm going to try to stop putting my balls unexpectedly in boys' mouths and choking them. Fell asleep and crashed a forklift twice. Not proud of it. Working 70 hours a week without a place to sleep and keeping going on no-dos will do that. Never got caught. I cut some pretty spicy peppers while holding them incorrectly with my hand, so my hand was pretty much heck on earth, but somehow I didn't really notice. Later on, idiot me decided to scratch around my right eye with said hand. Lots of swearing. A bit later, got distracted and scratched the other eye. Went to the bathroom in absolute pain to wash my face with water, and while washing, my nose got a little bit runny. Of course, because my brain was already dead, I proceeded to blow my nose with my satanic hand. My nose didn't like it much. One time I tried to make a mixed drink in a martini shaker, and said drink had soda in it. The lid blew off and sprayed soda and vodka everywhere. It was a huge freaking mess, and I vowed to learn my lesson. Then somewhere down the road several years later I found myself doing it again, and I realized what I had done with the clarity of a Vietnam flashback, only moments before the freaking lid popped off and sprayed soda everywhere. I once watched one of my bartenders do that. Ice, spirit and then coke from the gun into a glass shaker. Thought maybe the customer wanted it muddled or stirred. Nope. Canister on top and then went full shake. They ended washing out their hair with the soda water gun. I was cooking a grilled cheese sandwich in a frying pan. It was time to flip the sandwich, but it was kind of stuck to the pan. I was trying to get it with the spatula, but the pan kept scooting away from me, so I reached down with the other empty hand and steadied the pan's edge with my bare finger as I flipped the sandwich. I immediately realized what I'd done, since I'd put a second-degree burn on that finger, but I needed to finish my lunch. And sure enough, in 2 minutes time when I needed to flip the sandwich back over, I steadied the pan with that same finger again. Found myself in a hotel room with beer and no bottle opener. Had seen people using lighters to open bottles and figured it shouldn't be too hard. Lighter slipped, sliced off actual chunk of flesh from finger on the bottle cap, left with a very scarred knuckle. 5 years later I found myself in the exact same situation and did the exact same thing. It took 2 scarred knuckles to figure out that maybe I should just keep a bottle opener on me when I travel. I've seen people do this, but usually they're using the wrong technique. Some people put a lighter under the cap and just lift, which is risky. The right way is to use the fleshy part between your thumb and index finger on the hand holding the bottle as a fulcrum and the lighter as a lever. That way you can't slip and hurt yourself. When I was like 7 I was in my dad's apartment and it was really hot, so he put on a fan. I was entranced by the fan, so in my infinite wisdom I put my finger between the blades to see what would happen. Cue me almost losing my left index finger. I go show my dad and he laughs and bandages it and whatever. I come in 20 minutes later, bandage in left hand, blood everywhere on my right hand. When he asked what the heck happened I told him I wanted to see if the same thing would happen to my other hand. It did. I've tried to make Anna's mac and cheese, and failed spectacularly 3 times. The first time, I burned the noodles. The second time, I burned the cheese powder. The third time, I somehow turned the cheese powder into a solid mass. The worst part is, I'm otherwise a pretty good cook. I can make shrimp scampi without burning anything. Processed macaroni and cheese just throws me for some reason. You don't have to cook the cheese powder. Not a frick up, but I got downsized on 3 separate occasions. By the third time, everyone was crying and depressed all around me, and I was like, hey, we get to catch the game during happy hour. Wings and beer on me. Once was told a story of one of my uncle's friends who worked in a factory. Lots of big machines moving quickly. He was a fitter, so had to get up close and personal with these beasts. One day he's fixing a machine and needs to apply pressure from the inside of the machine outwards to attach something. He presumed the machine was off. It wasn't. Promptly lost the index finger on his left hand. Months off work and a potential lawsuit against the company. Only thing was, the company wanted to know exactly how he did it so it wouldn't be done again. They get him in, sit him in the office to discuss the steps he went through and what he did, but he just isn't any good at describing what he did. He has the idea to take them to the machine and walk them through it. So they head to the shop floor, and with all the management there and the H&S officer, he shows them how he lost his index finger by putting his right hand in the machine and losing the right index finger. I messed up dates for my finals, studying for the wrong one and realizing in the morning. Traumatic and shameful experience. Doesn't seem possible until it happens to you. And then it happens again. I'm pretty relaxed in general and can laugh things off. First time I joked about it with my friends. Second time around I absolutely freaked out. Oh man, there are no once in a lifetime fuck ups in my world. In the past 2 months I've blown the tires on 2 rental cars immediately after pulling out of the lot. Last night I had to break into my own apartment after forgetting my keys, but it's cool, I've done this before. Earlier this summer I dropped my phone in water, got it replaced, and dropped my new phone in water in a span of about 48 hours. I accidentally put ear medicine in my eye twice. The bottle looks like a bottle of eye drops. Before I decided to throw out the bottle, I've broken 2 lemon juicers by pressing them too hard. I've missed several flights after writing down the wrong date or time. Locking keys in the car with children inside. Car door locks were easily mixed up. Would pop out of the car, hit the unlock button, and shut the door in one beautifully flowing move, only to come to a dreadful realization that I've locked my children in the car with the keys inside. I've done this more often than a creature with an ability to recognize a repeating set circumstances should. Thankfully, the children are old enough to unlock the door from the inside now. Burning my hand with homemade steam from foam schmoots. It was for my coffee. I'd read here on Reddit how to intensify the joy you can receive from drinking coffee by adding foam. Home foam. Easy to make with an empty water bottle and milk. Just put milk in empty bottle. Shake it up. Remove cap. Nuke in microwave for a few seconds and voila. Home foam. Tasty yet treacherous home foam. Through my brain's rendition of scientific illumination, I had somehow discerned that, by leaving the cap slightly on while nuking, more foamy excellence would be produced. So, with reason at my side, I upped the ante for paramount foam production. By leaving the cap completely twisted on, I removed the swollen bottle from the microwave, and no sooner had I begun to admire its foamy bubbling lids, did it explode in my hand. Decidedly, at the time, the worst pain I've experienced ever, and I've given natural birth to 3 children, mind you, with no painkillers. Suppose that could meet this thread's criteria as well, come to think of it. Anyhow, as much as it hurt at the time, foam goodness clouds the brain and did it again. I caught myself about to make the same mistake the 3rd time and gave an audible laugh while snickering. Not this time. I've since moved on to whipped cream in my coffee. It's delightful. Somehow I landed an insanely attractive and very forward girl. By landed, I mean she was very interested in me. She had a boyfriend when she first tried to do stuff with me, so I pushed her away. 3 years later, she comes to a party of mine and is in a good mood. Claims she needs to sober up by taking a cold shower. Asks me if I can show her how it works. We both walk into the bathroom. She turns around and closes the door. I then proceed to tell her how the handles work. Then I'm like, "You need a towel, right?" And she's like, "Yes," so then I go grab one and bring it back. Then I'm like, "Yeah," and let her do her thing. This has now been analyzed by every angle by my expert team of friends, and I am ambiguously fricked up big time. How often is a girl that forward? Don't smoke weed, kids, you'll be incapable of picking up on signals. That actually sounds pretty passive to me, assuming she did want you to join her. Being forward doesn't involve dropping hints, or giving subtle cues, or giving you an opportunity to make the first move. Being forward would have been straight up asking you to join her, or kissing you before you left the room. Got together with a girl from high school. Twice. She still has my car, my cat, and my clothes. Frick her with a burning passion. Frick her with a burning passion. That's called chlamydia. I burned my left ear while doing the ironing when the phone was ringing. Then I burned my right ear phoning for the ambulance. You know how we all drink the crumbs at the bottom of a bag of chips? Well, I drank the pretzel crumbs only to end up with a mouthful of salt. Did that twice in my life. I do that too. For the salt. Told my interviewer that I'm available to work any HRS. They always take it more literally than I want, and I've made the mistake twice now. I made the beer bottles inside my freezer compartment explode because I forgot that they were inside. My grand idea was to cool them faster. Worst part, this happened more than 2 times. Get married, overspend your way into debt, get divorced, agree to take on all the debt in exchange for freedom and reduced other obligations. I accidentally gave a homeless druggo, I realized this later, a $50 note instead of a $5 and then did the same thing a month ago to the same guy. On the plus side, that guy thinks you are a baller. Maybe this is late, but I broke my toe when I was standing and putting on socks. I guess I was using a ton of force cause I missed the sock and kicked the floor. After my toe healed, the same day I took off the foot cast thingy they gave me, I broke my big toe again, same one. I put on socks sitting down now. In the UK, I accidentally tried to pay someone I knew with a euro as it looks similar to a pound coin. Would have been fine if I didn't accidentally mistake it for a pound coin again to the same person. Bit late, but yeah, this one I think about sometimes. This cute girl I know invited me to her birthday party a few years ago. We were young and she had the party in the park. She brought some stuff to keep us entertained like soccer balls, basketballs, and a frisbee. Now at the time I loved frisbee so I immediately grabbed it and we all started using it. It was going well until I threw it a bit too hard and straight into the back of the birthday girl's head. I apologized profusely, then proceeded to do it 2 more times throughout the day. I mentioned this to her recently and she didn't remember. Hopefully that's not cause of the frisbee. In 1997, first time in the States, I was at a party. I was inside. Someone outside called for me. We don't have screen doors where I live, so I didn't know to look out for it, and so walked directly into it and fell down to everyone's amusement. Several hours later, an even drunker me decided to step outside again. This time I looked out for the screen door, only to walk into the now closed glass door. One time I was at a barbecue where someone had brought the game Can Jam. It goes by a lot of different names, but it's just a yard game where you have 2 cans with a slot in them, and 2 teams throw a frisbee at it to either make it in the slot, hit the side, or have their partner knock it into the top of the can for points. So, I was playing. I'm not an entirely coordinated person, but I had my moments. As a matter of fact, after this once turned twice in a lifetime mistake, I made it in the slot and won the game. However, several turns before my badass win, I went to throw the frisbee, and my middle finger kind of hooked the lip of the frisbee, entirely altering its intended trajectory. Instead of going straight in front of me, it went at about a 45-degree angle to my right and straight into the face of this poor guy who wasn't even playing the game. I apologized, but he was really annoyed, which is a reasonable reaction to getting pegged in the face with a frisbee. A few turns later, again, my middle finger hooked the lip, and it went off at pretty much the exact same angle into pretty much the exact same face. Now, you get hit once in the face with a frisbee? That sucks. You get hit twice in the face with a frisbee within a 10-minute span by the same freaking guy? You're furious. I apologized profusely, but the guy ended up leaving. Turns out he was a dickhead who was pretty abusive to his wife, so in the end I stopped feeling too bad about it. But seriously, what are the odds? Obligatory not me, but my stepmom is a flight attendant for one of the major US airlines. A few years back there was an attendant who was getting up there in years, not sure exactly, but she was 70 plus. She was trying to secure one of the doors and fell out of the plane onto the tarmac. Broke nearly everything that can break on the left side of her body. Out of commission for nearly a year, obviously. First day back, first flight back on the job, she goes to show her flight crew what happened. Falls out again. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.